Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 221020.4. As crewman Bork is a bit of a mole, we've taken the liberty of sewing his mouth shut. We've also placed him within a closet similar to the one Uday Hussein's body double was tortured within, as we can risk no mistakes with our future plans. Welcome everyone to the 199th exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with education and work our way through the rather large mass of sources, and I might run out of time, sorry. We're going to go with education, and for this we go to Twitter. Protesters and others filing in now at schools board meeting for debate on some LGBTQ books in Dearborn Schools District. The last meeting was shut down by protesters. 370 people in attendance so far, said the counter. Anti-LGBTQ signs at Dearborn Schools meeting, 600 now here. Packed crowd. Don't vote for Rashida Tlaib, said Speaker Hassan, who's against LGBTQ books. Tlaib is booed loudly by a crowd of 600, which appears to be majority Arab. He calls for the removal of certain books and he insists he's not anti-gay. Pro-LGBTQ speakers are being booed at Dearborn Schools board meeting. A union rep called for unity and tolerance. The crowd booed her, shouting out insults. A gay man said books don't make people gay. He calls for unity between Muslims and gays. The far right in this country hates both of us. He is booed and laughed up by the crowd. The crowd applauds a speaker who opposes LGBTQ books and then chants at Dearborn Schools board, "Shame on you, 600 people here at board meeting." And I'm gonna play that clip for you now. I guess what makes this all rather amusing to me is, courtesy of The Atlantic, the evolution of white supremacy. In Dearborn, Michigan, Muslim parents who oppose teaching pornography to children become the new face of the far right. Oh my life. Perhaps don't teach LGBTQ issues, books, novels, and other such things in school. Don't worry though, because we've got something that tangibly connects to this that I was sent by my dear darling lovely Lulu Boobybell. Omegon, yikes, just yikes. Accompanying that is a tweet from Sarah Gonzalez. Now this doesn't connect to schools, but it does with inappropriate behavior with children present. I attended another all-ages drag brunch in Texas over the weekend, and the footage I have is shocking. With a quote of words said in the video, "It gets worse, more footage to come, we will stop this." The event was held at the restaurant bar Ebb and Flow. I'm going to play that clip as well. At some point, people need to sit down and just say, so what is acceptable around children? Should we be teaching LGBTQ issues to people who will not have a grasp or concept of it? There is a level of innocence involved when it comes to children, and I'm not convinced it is at all appropriate. I also don't think it's appropriate to have children around drag shows where the lyrics, well, I'm not going to repeat them, but you heard them, are being uttered by somebody. I get it, it's a show, I really do. And by all means insert, "Oh, won't someone please think of the children?" How about instead you think about what is correct? Is it correct to teach kids this stuff? No. Is it right they should be around this kind of stuff? No. They should be off climbing trees thinking they're dragons. Or perhaps playing a video game of an actual dragon like Spyro. But we're not done with the tangible now connection, segueing handily to a tweet from Animal Rebellion. Milk pours are currently happening across the UK. All are concerned individuals calling on the government to give us a livable future, a hashtag plant-based future. Here's the latest milk pour happening in Edinburgh at Waitrose. Getting ratioed like a mother fluffer. Honestly, could you come across as any more privileged than by doing a milk pour in Waitrose? I assume this is the aisle next to the yacht aisle, or perhaps next to the peacock feed, or perhaps it's next to the butler's shoes, which also happen to be still attached to the cow.
It is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the oil giants like Exxon, Shell and BP. The top 4 dairy companies are responsible for the majority of methane emissions. We want one peaceful protest and non-violence, just pulling out the injustice of an industry. Milk is not suitable for human consumption. When cows are taken from their mothers, when baby calves are taken from their mothers, when mothers are forcibly impregnated. This is a peaceful protest against the company and animal rebellion and are taking direct action to pull out the dairy.
My favourite reply to this comes courtesy of Irate Alex. Ah yes, Waitrose, the grocery chain in the UK known for catering to the upper class bougie white people. You sure showed them. Yes, you really did. This is like climbing on top of a bridge because you're worried about the world burning. You're sending that message in the rain. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, you saw it on Monday. And if you're going to do these stupid stunts, can you do me a favour and do it to the almond milk, oat milk, and all the other nut milks, not including the nut milk, of course. You want to be plant-based, and that is certainly not it. There is one more video I want to show you in today's video, but I'm going to include a warning, and I'm not going to play the audio from it because some of the sounds in the background are quite grim. A California ophthalmologist had discovered that one of her patients who was complaining of pain and blurriness had something in her eye that should not have been in her eye. The thing is, with contact lenses, you generally are supposed to take them out after a certain amount of time. This isn't rocket science. This is not a case of, oh, I just forgot the one time. This is a case of forgetting to remove your contact lenses 23 days in a row. On the screen, you saw the video playing. Yes, this did in fact happen. What happens is when you put those contacts into your eye and then you put another one over the top, they kind of sit under the eyelid and they glue themselves together. The issue really for this particular patient is, even though she has been told about this issue, or perhaps considered or been asked to change to glasses, she's still back on those contact lenses. And I know people like to say the customer is always right, but in this, the ophthalmologist is right. This particular ophthalmologist has begged this patient to stop wearing contact lenses. She went straight back to them immediately. Although, small positive I guess is, the patient in question appears to have learnt her lesson for the time being. I guess you make that mistake once, and she was lucky not to scratch her cornea. Going woke and broke. DC cancels Gay Superman solo run after abysmal sales. Sky News host Rowan Dean says that DC Comics is cancelling their Gay Superman solo run after abysmal sales, with the quote being, "Look, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's another company going woke and broke." This is in the opinions section of the Australian Sky News website. I'm not going to play the clip that accompanied it, but I do want to correct it. Issue 5 of this particular run is when John Kent came out as bisexual, the sales of which went through the roof. The first 4 in fact sold out, and the first went back for a second print. DC had announced this was only going to run up to issue 18 before it gets repackaged as something else, being renamed Adventures of Superman: John Kent. And after the sales went up so high, courtesy of Amazon sales especially for the 5th episode when John Kent came out, it's understandable the sales would go down afterwards. But this isn't where it ends. You see, DC have had to cancel something else. A few months ago, DC Comics cancelled the Robin comic book series, which starred Damian Wayne, the son of Bruce Wayne, and a future Batman in the lead. The launch issue for the series from 2021 was 60,000 units sold, but sales for issue 3 were at 49,000, and by 17 episodes, that is, it had dropped out of the top 100, estimated to be selling around 20,000 copies a month. The conclusion drawn from this was that the sales were low because of Damian Wayne's heterosexuality being forced down people's throats by way of a straight love interest for Damian Wayne in the character of Flatline. Over the years, there have been other interests. Off the top of my head, I can think of Raven, Kara Danvers, Stephanie Brown, Jin, and Miko Queen. There are more, in fact. So whether it's forced down people's throats, I'm not entirely convinced. But apparently, this is all straight propaganda. A wave of it has been featuring in comics in recent years, and this is a problem. And I will admit, the article I've included down below is hilarious. I highly recommend you read it. I follow a fair few creators on Instagram, so every so often I'll see something on Instagram and feel compelled to make a video on it. I did it last week with Sydney Watson, or the week before, and I'm going to do it again this week with Sydney Watson, because the Daily Mail made her a top story. Too fat to fly? Not even a joke. It comes courtesy of her own Instagram, following up with, guys, I am rolling, because the airline in question responded because the woman, Sydney herself, had shamed an overweight passenger, ×2. And then ×2 of that. It was 2 overweight passengers, which in turn led to other people simply saying, when I grow up, I want to be Sydney Watson and be in the news for fat shaming. Well, it's better than being in the news for having a Nazi pug, right? Talk about beating a dead horse. Because Archive decided to work today, I took the liberty of archiving the sources you all need to see. On October the 11th, Sydney Watson wrote, I am currently literally wedged between 2 obese people on my flight. This is absolutely not acceptable or okay. If fat people want to be fat, fine. But it is something else entirely when I'm stuck between you with your arm rolls on my body for 3 hours. With American Airlines replying to her, our passengers come in all different sizes and shapes. We are sorry you are uncomfortable on your flight. To which Sydney Watson replied with, this is really their official reply to me being sandwiched between 2 obese humans. Blanked part. I assume how shit. So I'm expected to have only a quarter of a seat when I fly? Additionally, tagging American Airlines, I just experienced getting sweat on, touched without my consent, smacked in the face, and subjected to hours of no personal space. And your response is essentially, too bad? Is that what I'm getting here? To then tweet later, I'm going to try ask the nice Eastern European men behind me to sneak a photo for me. I'm sure this scene looks absolutely absurd, it'll probably make some of you laugh. Flight attendant asked me 4 times if I need anything, ending with, I'd like some free alcohol, please. But this isn't where it ends. There's another article with more tweets. Sydney Watson, so we are clear. I stand by everything I said, and have come to find out what happened to me went against American Airlines' own policies regarding overweight passengers. I'd like some reparations, please. And I'm totally fine with being in the news for fat shaming. Also, I've been getting unhinged emails, messages, and comments all evening and couldn't work out why. Now I realise it's because I took issue with people putting their fat rolls on my body without my consent underneath, yes, a rather nasty response that has to latch onto conservative and other bollocks. But conservative being the horrendous part of Sydney Watson's existence, of course. Now I'm sure we can all sit back and have a good chuckle at Sydney Watson's expense because it is quite funny for someone so small to be essentially wedged between 2 behemoths. But if American Airlines have breached their own terms of service, they themselves have a problem, and they should have accommodated appropriately for all passengers, rather than give Sydney Watson the lip service response of our passengers come in all shapes and sizes. It doesn't mean they're Tetris blocks you have to fit into a line. Oh, and I saw this just before I finished rendering the video, so I had to re-render. Sydney Watson got a $150 voucher for this.